little bit in the back if you're okay with it. I got a loud voice there already. You guys hear me in the back? Okay, I like it. Guys, I'm excited to be here. In college wrestling, I ran up to Eye of the Tiger, so I just felt like I should have came out in my little wrestling singlet. I know you guys would have loved that.
Woo!
My wife said, yes, right on. I have some friends in the building. I'm really excited to be here, guys. I am so stoked because I'm in the industry of real estate. And I was able to speak in Chicago at the national convention. Kenny Parcells, a good friend of mine, and he had me go and speak out there. And I guess I didn't screw up enough to be able to come here today. So this is going to be fun. And I just got back from Florida, going back out to Atlanta, and so I definitely should have screwed up more in Chicago. But guys, what I want to talk with you guys about today, because I'm in your industry, I'm not just a motivational speaker up here. I'm in your industry. I invest in real estate across the country. I felt the hit. I know what's going on right now as I have multi-million-dollar properties I'm about to put on the market. That's a 10 to 50% hit, right? That we're all feeling. What I want to talk about today is how we're in the relationship business and how we show up, as you see here, like a victor, not a victim. Right? And how in my life I've been able to choose that time and time and time again. And how also there's been situations where I've definitely been the victim. And if you guys are okay with this, I'm going to take you down in some deep, dark times in my life and just be completely open with you. It was not like 10 years ago that I was getting ready to train for the wrestling Olympics. I was getting ready to go to the Olympic trials, and it was a sport that impacted my life. But my mentors came to me and they knew I had to fundraise $60,000. For me, raise your hand if that's real money for you. Some of you guys are like, not so much, right? For me, it was a ton of money. I was a sport college student, I was coming out, and they said, Ben, you gotta share your stories. And I'm like, no way, I'm not sharing my story. That's the last thing I'll do. No way, there's not a amount of money that will be able to be paid to me to share my story. Guys, it almost took me literally 30 years to tell what I'm about to tell you guys today. Because there were some of the darkest times in my life. And it all started when I was about this age. Right? I get wheeled down the hospital aisle to my parents, and the doctors would tell my parents that I was born different. They would tell my parents that I was born with something called Cruton syndrome. My dad thought he heard the name Cruton syndrome, about died because he thought I was going to be a vegetarian. He's like, oh my gosh, a vegetarian, no way, right? And my mom's like, what does that mean? My boy's special, right? We have moms in the building. Okay, you guys get it. They would go and tell my parents that I would be born different because I would look different because Cruton syndrome affects the mid part of the face. It would grow at different speeds. It would go on and specify what it meant. It meant that I would breathe differently. It would affect the way that I would eat, and it would definitely affect the way I would look. And they would tell my parents to save their money for these type of surgeries. That would be 12 to 14 hours long. They would go and basically fillet my head open, right? Cut it open, take different bones of my body, I have a big scar right here, and put it in my face. I used to be 6'5", now I'm 5'3". Right? That's what took me to wrestling instead of basketball. Basketball's the money for. And they would tell my parents to save their money, but also, parents, save your money not just for this stuff, not just for the full face redo, but save your money for his counselors and therapists and psychiatrists. But why do you think they would say that? Anybody? What?
Other people.
Other people, what does that mean?
Bullies.
Bullies.
Judgment.
Judgment. that. And they were right. Because there are the experiences that I would have outside of this, like, cruel and unusual punishment by parenting, right? This is way before, like, Skadoosh's school, right? There was no Kung Fu Panda. But there was an experience that would happen when I was down in my my friend's basement. We were playing. And we're playing Nintendo. Who are my Nintendo fans out there? Any Nintendo fans? Come on. Yeah, you remember that device? Anybody play the game, the duck shoot game? I think it's duck hunt or something like that. Raise your hand. Come on, my people, right there. Okay, check this out. Tell me if you were like me. As we're in this basement, we're playing. Me and my buddies are side by side. I was the same person every time that went to the front of the screen, stick the pistol on the screen, basically scratching it and shooting every time. Raise your hand, and you were like, yeah, right? Okay, my cheating people, I love you guys. That was me. And as I thought I was king of the world, my friend's mom comes to the top of the stairs. She's like, I need your help. Boy, now, right? And she's negotiating with her kid and her kid's friend. And then she says, I'll give you some chocolate. And we said, let's do it. We ran out to the car, and she says, I need your help at the grocery store. She had a big family. As we go to the grocery store, it's like rush hour traffic, and we get to the final line, wherever there's like 50 people in line. I swear it's half my neighborhood. No automatic checkout, no drone delivery, no curb hub or whatever it's called, grub hub. We were waiting in line, and finally we got to be where we were second in line. It was me and my buddy, and I just picked my chocolate of choice, which was Twix. And as I sat there, admiring what I just did to earn the Twix, there was a man in front of me. And he was an adult, and he was with this little boy and this little girl about my age. And this is the moment that would change my life. As this little boy sat there with a candy bar in hand, next to his friend, who looked a little bit different than him, this adult in front of everybody in that store said something that wouldn't be quiet. And he would grab his little boy and his little girl, and he would point at this boy right here, not knowing any better. And he said, hey kids, look at this boy, look at how this boy looks. Look at how funny his face is. Can you believe he goes out in public? And as he laughs, he says, I can't believe he has any friends. And at this moment, I was over here with my candy bar, and I forgot about my candy bar. The appetite was gone. I sat there and just folded my arms and just started just trembling. I remember looking down at my shoes and thinking and wishing at this elementary age if it was just for my shoes that he was making fun of me for, that I could take off my shoes. And I was thrown 5 hours away to get rid of that pain. But as I opened my eyes, he was not making fun of me for my shoes. He was making fun of me for something I couldn't change. And when I thought it was the worst, he grabbed this kid, hurried and paid for his groceries, and on the way out, he did this. He put his kid behind him. And he said, hey kids, get behind me, hurry, get behind me. Don't go near him, and don't touch him, because he's probably contagious. And I don't want you to have that. Let's go, get in the car, hurry. Grab the groceries. And that's what broke me. Elementary age boy sat there, melted candy bar in hand at this point. Broken. Cold tears turned to, the cold sweat turned to tears. And I don't want to be there. My friend's mom grabs me, super awkward, right? The air was thick. Put me in the car, drove me home. My mom was home. She was a stay-at-home mom. She heard me barreling through the door, right? And as I barreled through the door, ran into my dad's office. Off my dad's office was a bathroom. I came into my dad's bathroom and slammed the door. and breathing heavy, just like hyperventilating almost for what just happened. I just melted against the wall, and I was just like, I threw the candy bar against the wall, again, appetite gone. And at that age, I tried to think of a way to remove my face, to try to physically get rid of what they were making fun of me for. And luckily, before I had any good ideas, my friend's mom came in. Excuse me, my friend's mom. My mom came in. My ninja mom came in. How many of you guys have a wife, have a mom, or are the ninja mom? Raise your hand. Right? When your child is hurt from somebody, and you hear them coming in, and all of a sudden they're just like snot bubble crying, and you come in with something fierce, right? That's how my mom was. And she came barreling through that door, broke in the door like she was a freaking ex-convict. And she came in and she's like, what happened? Tell me everything! I'll go get him, man! She started doing these like ninja moves, right? She's like, go get him, let me at him, right? I'm like, what's going on? Like she's a fourth freaking Ninja Turtle. And then she did something that would continually remind me how I should react in these victim-like situations. She cuddled with me. Now, my mom was a good coddler. She was an incredible cuddler. And there's a difference there. There's a difference about being a cuddler and a coddler. Being a coddler is like grabbing your boy when something like this happens, wrapping him in bubble wrap or like mattress and saying, never go outside again, right? Instead, she got down with me, loved on me, heard my story, and cried with me. And then in a moment of decision, she made me stronger. I told her everything. And she said, Ben, you know what? You're different, I get it. But why don't you freaking make a difference? You know what? You're going to cause some attention, so why don't you make that attention good attention? As a matter of fact, why don't you stand up? And it's like, I'm like 2'3", right? I'm like 2'3", very creepy bastard. My mom had a deeper voice than me at this time, right? And she's like, get up. And I get up off the ground, sopping wet with tears and snot. And she says, stand in front of the van. And I went over, and I stood in front of the van, and she's like, look in the mirror, man. And as I looked in the mirror, she said, what are you seeing? Right? How many of you guys have seen Cool Runnings? Raise your hand. Remember how he's fighting in the bar, he grabs his buddy, he's like, go in the mirror. He's like, what are you seeing? It was basically the same thing. So I go in there, and my mom over my shoulder, she said, what are you seeing? I'm like, I don't see anything. I was too short, right? She said, stand on your tipping toes. I'm like, okay. She's like, what are you saying? Like, I see my forehead, right? I didn't get it. And then she walked me through what I should see myself. She walked me through that I was a leader. She walked me through that I was my own voice. She walked me through understanding that there are going to be people that are going to tell me that I can or can't do something, and guess what? I'm going to say, watch me. She walked me through understanding that I could defy the odds. She walked me through knowing that I could be a force for good. She walked me through understanding that I was meant to be me 100% and not some other person, version 2.0. Sometimes in life, and you guys sitting in the chair have been through this, I guarantee it. You don't have to have cruise zone syndrome to understand this. Sometimes we try to fake somebody else. We try to be the shadow or imitation of somebody else, version 2.0, and that's just not working. It's not legit. We're like, oh, if this other realtor, if this other this or that, if that person, if I could just be a little bit like that, if I could just smell like them or act like them or dress like them, then I could do this and this and that. And we're not meant for that. We're not born for that. And I started understanding those lessons. I started understanding that there would be some great times, black times, dark valleys in my life. That if I just understood that Ben Kjar, version 1.0, wasn't just enough, but more than enough. then I can start showing up for not just myself, but for other people. And I get it. You guys are there, and you guys are like, well, Dad, you don't understand the economy. I'm getting killed right now, right? The inflation, the houses, I get it. I'm in the industry. At one point, I was flipping 40 houses at the same time across the country. Yeah, I'm that kind of crazy. Right? I get the understanding of what you're going through. But you know what I also get, and what I'm going to share with you in just a little bit? When the house is on fire, we run in. You guys are going to see in the real estate market, the realtors, the house is on fire, we're heading out. The most influential, impactful leaders in every industry, when you feel like the house is on fire, you go in. And you thrive when you do that. So let me tell you how I started rebounding from these type of scenarios. Because these early lessons taught me how to show up in every industry and area in my life. The illusion for you guys to come here today was a luncheon, right? It was to induct people in, and it's phenomenal. What I hope for you guys, and not to take away from anything that's happened, is to leave today understanding that you're more than enough and you can thrive in any economy, in any situation, if you arrive and play with the right perspective. Let me give you some examples here. I started in sports, even though the doctors told me I couldn't do football. Yeah, go get your head cut open and then go bash other people's heads, right? Not too smart, right? But my parents also taught me, and then also finally, after 5 years of begging them to play football, am I going to let my boy actually live? Am I going to let my boy actually go out there? It's a little dangerous. But are we going to pop the bubble wrap and take it off and leave it behind? Are we going to calculate the risk a little bit? And I hope that you guys are willing to do that. Even when the baseball jersey didn't fit me very well, right? So I had to cut it up just to fit it in my pants, right? I started understanding that I could go out there. On this last picture, I'll go back to it. Even when I had a drip line in my arm that fed the medicine to my heart, I still showed up to practice. I may have not done full contact, but guess what? I still showed up. I may have not sold 5 houses that month in the real estate market, but guess what? I showed up because I was in it for the long game. Not the slow markets. I was in it for a career of showing up as me. And when I started believing in myself and telling myself in the mirror that I was more than enough, and then did the work, this is the difference, and then did the work, things started happening for me. Let me give you an example. How many of you guys are athletes out there or have played athletics before, right? I see a couple of hands. Awesome. So you guys understand, if you've been in that place before, coaches. And coaches, in wrestling specifically, we'd be running around the room and the coach would be yelling the cadence. He would be yelling the cadence of, all right, 5 times around the room, and I'd be running 5 times around the room. And then my coach would say, 20 push-ups, 20 push-ups, and then everyone would drop. But I started realizing, it's all these tournaments that I was going to, at the end of the tournament, these athletes would get up on this podium. You guys have seen the Olympics. You guys have seen these sports. You guys have seen the award ceremonies. And these podiums, especially in the sport of wrestling, there was only one person on the top. The only person on the top was the guy who got the gold medal. And so I started internalizing what was happening in the tournament, at the end of the tournament, and then what I needed to do in order to get to the top of the podium. And so when my coach, in the middle of practice, would yell 20 push-ups, I started understanding that, you know what then? If everybody else is going to be wrestling in the tournament, and my coach says 20 push-ups, that better be a freaking minimum. That better be normal. And guess what? Even though the majority of my life I've always prayed and wanted to be normal, I've always prayed and wanted to not stick out, my mama taught me it's okay to stick out. My mama taught me that if I'm going to be remembered, I better stick out. My mama taught me that I'm different, so I'm going to make a difference. And so instead of doing 20 push-ups, I did more. And that made the difference for me. And I started going forward with the victor mentality and not the victim mentality. I started understanding the abundant mindset. And that took me in high school to be my high school's first ever 3-time state champion. But I was so confident about every day when I would look in the mirror, what I would tell myself. And I would put in the work that I had a story like this. You guys are going to crack at this. You guys are going to love this. How many people in high school here have a Leatherman's jacket? Raise your hand. Right? Is that still around? Is that still a thing? Maybe not, right?
Kind of.
But it was a thing back in the day. And they were expensive, though. I don't know if you guys remember, but back in the day, about 20 years ago when I graduated, it was like $350. With inflation, we're probably talking like $17,000. Is that about the right calculation? Right? And so my parents come to me and they're like, okay, Ben, we want to give you a Leatherman's jacket. You're a junior. It was my goal to be a 3-time state champion. And as I got my first state title, my parents came to me and said, we're going to actually give you this jacket early for Christmas. And it was about in October. And so I got my early Christmas gift, and they said, but Ben, you get to put patches on your jacket. Who remembers that? Raise your hand if you put all your patches on your jacket, right? So I got my state title, I put it on the back of my jacket, and then I put the name, the year I thought I was going to graduate, logo, all that type of stuff, right? And then on my shoulders, they said, you have some space. I'm like, oh yeah. They said, so what do you want to put? As a junior, having won state one time, I put the number 3 and the letter X on my right shoulder. What do you think that stood for? 3-time state champion. My parents didn't understand, nor could they believe that I said that. They're like, what? What does that mean? And they knew what it meant, right? But I had to tell them and convince them to believe that I was crazy enough or courageous enough to believe. Everything that I thought that I could do, shy of like tattooing it across my forehead, right? I wrote out there. As a goal, I wrote 3XSC everywhere on my big brick phone, right? I wrote it in my locker, on all my books in school. And I think that's lost along the way in my life. It's been lost. I stopped doing that. And we do that as adults. We forget. In high school, a lot of us were more courageous than we are now. We stopped dreaming. I was listening, I was in a conference the other day with Ed Milet. Some of you have probably heard of him. He said this. He said, one of the biggest forms of child abuse is parents stop dreaming. And that hit me. I'm like, oh my gosh, my 3 kids only understand how I show up. That's their default. So some of us here sit in the seats, go home, and our kids only know what the parents' dreams are. And some of us have lost that. It's interesting when he said it's a form of child abuse. We don't show our kids maximum behavioral potential. We show them when the market changes, when things get unsure, we bounce. I'm telling you, that's not victor mentality. And I had a little bit of victim mentality when my junior year I lost in the region to a guy who beat me. I was freaked out because the next day when I arrived, I'm like, should I wear my jacket? Will people show up and say, Ben, what are you going to do? Take off that patch? I had a friend come up to me because I did wear my jacket the next day. Even though I lost in the region the night before. He's like, what are you going to do? Are you going to unstitch that patch and you're going to put 2X on there? And I chuckled because I was only a one-time state champ. I'm like, you're believing, aren't you? I'm like, you're believing. At least I'm a two-timer. And I kept wearing it. But with the ability to show up every day, not let things get in my way of achieving what I felt was possible, and putting in the work ethic, I became my high school's first ever three-time state champion. And then the newspapers back then, by the way, who remembers what newspapers are? Come on, raise your hand. Can you believe people got paid to like throw this in people's houses? Every now and then you like hit a dog, you know what I'm saying? They would talk about this kid who looked a little bit different, right? Let's see if this clip is working. They would talk about this kid who looked a little bit different, but in a different light. Kjar would lead the team to first state title. And then I started believing that was enough. Sometimes our goals is, okay, how can I be the best in the office? How can I do enough just to be the best in the office? How can I do enough just to be the top 500 realtor in the country? How can I do enough just to be this? But what if there was no limit? Right? What if there was no limit? I was really blessed and I got the opportunity to go to Oklahoma University where I trained. But right in the middle of the height of my career, my doctor called and said, hey Ben, we've been holding this off too long. Your last surgery was 5 years old. You have such an underbite, you can put 2 fingers in your mouth, bite down, and not touch your fingers. It's affecting the way you breathe. You need to come in. And so this is a picture of me, of one of my last surgeries. That's my ninja mom I was telling you about, right? And this is the before and after. I want to tell you a funny story. I was dating this girl. I thought she was pretty cute, but not near as hot as my wife is. My wife's in the building right over here somewhere, right? Can you guys give her a little bit of a whistle? Yeah. Right? She's the backbone behind all this. But this time I had a girlfriend, right? And I'll never forget coming home. And you see a little bit of before and after and how the change was. And the friend's mom came up to me. And she saw me for the first time after the swelling had kind of come down. And she's like, oh man, wow. She's like, you look cute. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is kind of weird, right? And then she comes over to me, she puts her arm around me. And she's like, you really look good. You look like Leonardo DiCaprio. And inside, the song came to me. I'm like, listen, Stacy's mom. You got this going on. Right? And I like kind of step away like, this is my uh-oh zone, right? And it was funny because even though this change of Leonardo DiCaprio, like, hold on to me forever, Titanic type of thing, right? Felt a little bit awkward to me. It was interesting that even though there was an exterior change, a physical change, it never changed the way I felt about myself. I'll stand before you today, still looking a little bit unique, but I continue to show up. Because I've done the internal work. Do I doubt myself? Oh yeah. Do I have to wear like man diapers all the time? Almost, because I'm doing some freaking crazy stuff sometimes. Do you guys ever feel like you are about ready to pee your pants because you're living a life that sometimes feels like you're on a roller coaster? Raise your hand. I'll raise everything, right? If you're not, man, start buying the man diapers. Because that's when you start feeling. That's when you start living. Some of us have forgot that. So I want to give you an example of this. Can somebody read this? Who has a big voice out there? Anybody? Right here. I love it. What does that mean to you? Beautiful. Give her a hand, folks. Come on. I love that. When we start showing up, guys, and start understanding these things, life changes. We show up different for our clients. We show up different for ourselves. Our kids are seeing a different human. And that's what I saw. Man, as I showed up differently for me, other people saw that same difference. And they started believing in this little guy. I ended up transferring to Utah Valley University, helped launch their wrestling program that was brand new. There wasn't any All-Americans there. But I met this beautiful girl who was on the track team. And she had an identical twin. And I chased after both of them. It just so happens I caught them both. And I'm so glad I did. I was getting ready to get married to her. And I needed to propose. I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? What's she going to say? How am I going to do this? Oh, I sweat. I'm like, I'm not a poet. How am I going to do this, right? And then I imagined the moment, the perfect moment, that everything I would say so she couldn't turn me down. You guys know the feeling, right? All the men out there should know the feeling. Or they better come with a big, thick wallet to be able to give the money. You know what I'm saying? Please marry me, right? As I sat there and I kneeled down, I brought out the ring that I barely could afford. I trained my whole life to be able to ask my ladies for my lady's hand. Guys, in real estate, it's no different. We show up to these meetings and we have no freaking clue what we're doing in our proposals. We do not know how to present. We forget that guess what? As we kneel down to our clients, that we get to convince them to get married to us. And we get to convince them that there is no other option because we are the best option. We get to realize that in our presentation that it's truly a story war. Last time I checked, the realtors are still 3%, right? But not equal. Realtors are not created equal, right? And so how do we present and how do we show up? And what's the story that we tell people? Never forget that this is a game of the relationships and how we provide that trust with them. And so luckily she said yes, and we went on a journey that was pretty fun. And this followed me into Philadelphia my senior year. She was my backbone. We show up in Philadelphia. Who's ever been there? Raise your hand if you've been in Philadelphia, okay? Nice. Who has been to the bottom of the stairs where Rocky Balboa ran the stairs, right? At the bottom, if you've never been there, there's Rocky, Sylvester Stallone, in a statue that's raising his hands like this. If you don't know, that's where he's from in the movie, right? Right before weigh-ins, I'm a pound over. Any wrestlers in the building? I know he's a wrestler. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I felt that testosterone in the building. I show up, right? Night before weigh-ins, you have to weigh in order to compete. My friend comes up to me, he's my training partner. We brought him in to help train me. His name's Avery. He's like, Ben, we gotta run this. He's like, we gotta run the steps. I heard about it. We gotta go down here. I'm like, okay, let me put the sweats on. And as we started running the steps, we get to the bottom. And it wasn't much different than the Rocky story. Guys, I was ranked 0 in the country. I was unranked. The next day, if I made weight, I would wrestle a guy from New York who I think ate rocks in the morning. He was like this tall and this wide, and he had boulders in his arms, right? He had like 4 shoulders, right? I'm like, who is this freaking Popeye? They have spinach different out there on Long Island, right? And as I would show up the next day, if I would have beaten him, I would go against the guy who was ranked really high in the country because he was undefeated that year. If I somehow he slipped on a mat and I got past him, I would wrestle a guy who had beat me twice that year from Minnesota, who was a multiple-time All-American. He's currently coaching in Minnesota. And I was against a brick wall, not knowing if I could even show up. And I get to the bottom of the stairs. No joke. Go on YouTube and watch it. Because my friend pulls out his phone. He's like, Ben, this is your Rocky moment. Run to the top of the stairs. I got you. He pulls out his phone, and you'll see it on YouTube. This little guy in all his sweats running to the top of the stairs, and my buddy's like, right? And as I go to the top of the stairs, I overlook all of Philadelphia, still unsure a little bit. If this boy, who was born a little bit different, could show up in front of 20,000 people and defy the odds, unranked. And the next day, after actually believing, looking over Philadelphia, that I could show up and I could defy the odds, that I could do it. I'm Utah Valley University's first ever All-American, and it was one of the coolest experiences I had, as I was able to defy the odds one by one. And then there was a moment that happened after this moment. When I walked out the tunnel, the Utah Valley University's first ever All-American, there would be companies like ESPN and Sports Center and some other local wrestling organizations that would come up and stick a camera in front of my face. And it would be another opportunity to define who I was. They said, "Hey man, can we film you? Is that okay if we do an interview?" And I knew that the interview would be of this, not of my attractive knees. You know what I'm saying? But I said, "Yeah, let's do it. It's time for me to step up and be a victor." And as it went out, this video went out to about 500,000 people on YouTube. And eventually they disabled the comments. Why do you think they disabled the comments? What do you think the reason was for that? Yeah, there's some trolls, there's some keyboard warriors, right? There's going to be a lot of people that come to you guys that are going to be that same way. I'm going to tell you, life is a little bit different when you can react more like a victor, not a victim. I'll never forget having a guy from across the country in this video say this in the comments in front of everyone. He said, "Hey Ben, I don't know where you're from. I can't believe I'm still watching this video. You should go back to the hole from which you came from. It's absolutely despicable that I'm still watching this post." Now, as a trained warrior for like over 30 years, I wanted to freaking headbutt him and break his finger. You guys feel me? But in the victor mentality, I know that wasn't the right mentality. Nor was it the right approach. I feel like there's a power in a pause. I also feel like that we can, what I call focus for 5. This used to break me. These type of moments used to break me. It would take me 5 months, 5 weeks, 5 days to recover. Guys, this is us. Some of y'all out in the audience haven't talked with your sibling or your son or your daughter in 5 years because your ego is not your amigo. And so it's time for us to get over us and step out and maybe a client and say, "You know what? It's okay. I had that moment in this opportunity, and that's what I did." When maybe shortly before that, I would have came back at him fighting. Left jab, right jab type of thing. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. I got you. But in this moment, I decided to be a victor, not a victim. I said, "Hey, buddy, you know what?" This is the comment I made right below. "Hey, buddy, you know what? I don't know where you're from, but I do know this. I can't wait to meet you because when we meet, we're going to embrace. I'm going to give you a hug. Hopefully before that time, before we meet, you'll have chosen to be a force for good and a hero in your community. Until that time, God bless. Hope to see you soon." Guys, 5 years later, couldn't find me on YouTube. Comments were disabled. He came to me on Facebook. He said, "Ben, I've been looking for you everywhere. Hopefully you don't remember what I said. But I want to tell you I was in a dark spot. It wasn't the top of my life. I was in a dark, dark time. I want to tell you that what you said changed me. I needed that virtual hug. And when we meet, we will hug. And I've chosen to be different. I've chosen to show up for myself. I've chosen to show up for other people. God bless you. Hope to see you soon." I want to tell you that you're going to have those opportunities to react like that. I don't know if it's going to be with your clients. I don't know if it's going to be with your family members, with your wife when you get home. I don't know how it's going to be, but you're going to have the opportunity to choose. So I'm going to invite you to choose to react like a victim. I was able to, if you go to the UCCU building, you'll be able to see that, the long green underwear. They call it a wrestling singlet, by the way, right? And you'll be able to see that it's pretty cool. I love that place. I was able to represent the USA and travel around the world. I lived in Ukraine for a little bit. Have a lot of friends out there that are still battling what they're battling. God bless those guys, right? But along the path, as I graduated college and was taught to work for other people, right? I learned that I could probably work for myself. Holy smoke. I'll never forget when I didn't have any money. And I couldn't qualify for this house that was down the street. And I'm a little poor guy and I knew how to wrestle and that was about it. There's a house that said for sale by owner. I'm like, oh, this is a cool house right down the street from me in Orange. I remember longboarding down the street, showing up and talking to the people with my longboard next to me. Not having very much money because I was just fired by my dad and my brother. If it wasn't bad enough to get fired, it's like really bad when you get fired by your siblings. Right? You guys feel me? So I longboarded down to this house when I didn't feel like I could do anything or show up for anything. And I had this longboard. I'm like, hey, would you sell the house? I invested a little bit of money in seller's finance. And as I walked through the house and they showed me the house, I saw two vehicles, as you see here, under the garage. Under the roof, I said, well, what are these doing? And they said, hey, my brother just passed away and he loved cars. I said, well, I love cars too. And I put an offer for everything under the roof. Bought this beautiful home for $120,000 with cars included. I'll never forget selling the cars just to be able to pay for the rehab. Now, I feel like I'm the biggest idiot in the world. The Camaro and the Lotus, bye-bye. I wish I still had them. But I made it happen. I made it work. I thought I was the king of the world, and 6 months later, I made $41,000. I'm like, what? I can do this? And I would do it again and again and again. I'm bringing these stories up because when you don't think it's the time potentially to buy real estate, you are absolutely right. But I'm going to buy a bunch of it. What you tell yourself is exactly true to you. I'll never forget coming on an off-market deal, as you see here, right in Pleasant Grove, and someone brought this deal to me. I walked in, and this guy, right after purchasing it, died. They said, hey, you know the buddy who you shook hands with yesterday? Yeah, he's dead in your house. I'm like, good, does he come with it? Everything under the roof, right? We bought a house in Pleasant Grove. If you know the area, you know it's not super cheap. On an acre for $250 grand, 3,500 square feet. A little bit different market than it is today. Yeah. I want to tell you about this. Know your value in real estate. Know your value. This property is right under U of U. Guys, these are properties that I have. These are all my properties. I buy this property, I get it under contract. Know your value. As a realtor, you should know your client's value. I'll never forget signing a contract. 24 hours later, someone comes to me. I have under contract about $260 grand. This was a couple of years ago. Someone comes to me, he's like, hey, 20 grand, give me the paper, you had a good 24 hours. Do I do the short pleasure, take the 20 grand, or do I play the game of the real game? I decided not to do it. We sold this home for $925,000. Another home, we ended up coming to it. People said, don't get in, because there were red stickers, do not work, on the home. You guys have seen it, red tag with the city, right? Victim mentality. Well, what's the strategy? I'm going to come in, I saw the value, I bought it for $420,000, It was a polygamous house. I joined 2 homes to 1, right? I'm like, I'm going to sell this to a non-polygamist, most likely, right? And we made it this. We sold this for, I think ended up being like $840,000. Do people tell you to not get in, not enter the market? Do you always listen, or do you say, watch me? I'll give you another example. An opportunity that was on the market for almost 5 months in Mississippi. Nobody wanted to buy it. People are saying, don't do it. Right now, some people in the market are saying, you can't do this, you can't do that. Thank you. You're right, you can't. I will. I went and bought a full block of property for about $135,000. It's been very good for us. I still hold it today. About a half a mile away from the beach. In COVID, who remembers COVID? Raise your hand. Anybody? For different reasons, some people were not traveling. I totally respect that. What I had the opportunity to do was still buy. I'll never forget the opportunity when it came across my desk and people said, don't do it, the economy's gonna go down and burn. Boy, were they wrong. You guys know what's happened the last couple of years, right? With the mentality of a warrior, with the perspective of a victor, you see things different. Do you do the work? Do you do the numbers? Absolutely you do. But don't suffocate yourself. I'll never forget getting on the plane and flying into Wichita, Kansas, touching down and everything was dead. I'll never forget going to the closing table. A couple days before, I didn't have any money. We found the money, we bought it for $1,050,000. Just over 12 months later, I ended up selling it for $2.1 million. Guys, there is opportunity in what people call the down market. This property I'm getting ready to sell. Back east, 43 beach condos. Found it off market. What happened out there? Well, the tsunami happened in 2019 or whatever it was, a hurricane. We all know what happened in 2020. Hotels, specifically like this, motels, started shutting down. Where somebody else wants to get out, there's opportunity to get in. Right now, people are having the mentality at times to get out. Are you going in? In 1 year, I'm about to put this on the market this week. I'll have doubled this value. There is opportunity. You can do it. You approach yourself with that type of mentality. Guys, in closing, here's what I want to share with you. I started today by telling you guys this is a relationship game. The relationship game starts internally. And as you start believing in who you are and showing up for who you are, you show up different for other people. I want to tell you when it's hard. When you finally feel like you're on top of your game and you control what the perspective and reaction was, like I felt like I had with Cruzon syndrome. You can't come and make fun of me and not have me feel like I'm not going to react like a victim. But it's hard when one of your trials is something that you can't control and other people are involved. I'm going to wrap it up with a few more stories that may hit a little bit closer to home for you. What I hope today, my friends, is not just that you become a better killer realtor, but you show up better in life. Because I think that's the most important thing. These stories I'm about to tell you are extremely personal to me. And they're private, and I hope you get something out of it. And that's why I share them right now. For 10 years, my beautiful wife and I tried to have kids. 4 IVF cycles. My wife called me when I was out of town, and she said, "Hey, Ben, you remember that little boy? He's not breathing anymore." It would then happen again with a little girl. We thought it'd be best to enter the adoption market. We had nowhere else to go. Doctors couldn't tell us what was wrong. We go in and we get matched with a beautiful birth mom. Day one of pregnancy, we funded her for 9 or 8 months. After our last check, almost $45,000 invested, she emailed us and said, I'm going to keep the baby. My wife and I decided to choose new beginnings and not dead ends. We'd go back in the adoption market. $35,000 in with a beautiful mom with another baby girl. We find out that she had placed the same baby with 2 other families. It was triple dipping. She shortly after that disappeared. I'll never forget my wife coming to me and crying in my arms and asking why we would have to go through this. I also never will forget the phone call when we felt like we were at the bottom of the bottom, that we couldn't see the light. And I'll never forget the phone call we got just a few days later. Hey, this is Ben and Nicole, right? Yeah. There was a boy that was just born in the Midwest. Do you want to be parents? And we're like, heck yeah, let's go, baby! I didn't know how to change diapers, but who cares, right? And so we fly out to the Midwest, and I'll never forget as the birth mom comes up to us and says, you want to meet your baby boy. Now, I don't know about you, but sometimes when you make a quick decision, you wonder if it's right. Can I be and can I show up for the dad that this boy needs? He's not my blood. I don't know if I wanted to do adoption for years. I want my own blood. But I feel like this is probably what God wants me to do. So I show up unsure, but is this what we're supposed to do? I'm here. We decided we're here. Let's do it. The night before, the next day, you got to sign documents. We had like $1,000 in pink clothes, right, for chicks. We're like, boys' names? What are you talking about? I got all these girls' names. They're like, we better pick a girl, we better pick a boy's name. We showed up the next day. But I didn't sleep hardly at all during the night because in the middle of the night I woke up and the name Liam came to me. It wasn't any of the names that we had selected for the boy. And on the way to the hospital, my wife asked, why were you rolling around all night? And I told her. And she said, that probably means something. And as we show up to the hospital, the birth mom was signing the documents, and as she's getting ready to come out, she says, I hope you don't mind, I signed the documents, I just put a name down. But I put a name down that had an incredible definition. You could change it. You choose your boy's name. I'm like, cool, what does the definition mean? She's like, I picked a name that means protective warrior. I'm like, oh yeah, right? I said, cool, what's the name? She says, the name protective warrior is Liam. Things happen for a reason. My wife and I got all emotional. We get out, barely enough time to walk in the hallway, crying. At the end of the hallway, the adoption director is getting off her phone. And she's crying. And she wipes her tears, and she looks at my wife, who's a twin. And she says, well, Cole, you're a twin, right? And she said, yeah. She says, do you want to raise kids like twins? And I'm like, what? I saw one baby come out of that mom, right? And she's like, no, there's a baby girl being born 20 minutes away. The boy and the girl will be 5 days apart. You want to raise kids like twins. Guys, I don't know if you've ever played like a joke on someone or surprised someone, but you know what's fun? When you surprise your family. My family had no clue we were out of town. We came back, surprised my family, and went crazy on YouTube. Just so happens that between YouTube and social media, it's been seen this video over 70 million times. What's cool is the reactions that we've had. What's incredible is the opportunity I have to react to some of the reactions. Like this one. Hey, I'm very glad for them, but did you see his head? This must be some genetic handicap. Maybe it's better not to give that to a child. On this reaction, I felt a little bit spicy. And sorry, reacted like this. Hey, I bought your opinion once, but decided to return it for a full refund because it didn't serve me. I wish the world's mistakes or trials were all visual. This place would be a whole lot less dangerous. Too many people hide their flaws. I've been blessed to have a difference and decide if I wanted to use it to make a difference. Let's go to another one, right? Now appreciate it. Oh, guys, make it better. Trust me. Right here. What's going on with that guy's head? I respond with as much kindness as I can muster up. Right here at the bottom. Hey, at the moment, I'm just trying to figure out what species he is. How do you react? Right here. Who's seen the movie Goonies? Raise your hands. Right? Oh, one of the best. Right? Baby Ruth. I love it. This guy thought I was that dude, even though I love Baby Ruth and I love the Superman shirt. Unfortunately, I wasn't that guy. But he answered back, or he said, hey, I wonder what happened to the slot from the Goonies. Dude, I thought that was pretty funny, right? And that's what I told him. I'm like, dude, I'm past getting offended, and I answered. One of my favorite, my buddy Joe. Joe Brady put out there, hey, does this guy look human? I may be out of line, but WTF, what the fudgemingle, I'm sure is what he meant. This is kind of hard to read. It's a little bit fuzzy for some reason. But basically, I answer him and tell him that it's okay. Because we have no idea what people are going through. And because I chose to answer as a victim, not a victim, literally in a matter of hours on this conversation, you'll see how I literally invite him over to break bread with my kids and my family in my life. That is the power of perspective. That, my friends, is the power of approach and relationships. I believe that when you choose new beginnings and not dead ends, you get calls like we did 11 months after Liam was born from the birth mom. Say, hey, yo, you remember Liam, the protective warrior? You better be a pretty protective warrior because he's got a full blood brother. You know how to change diapers yet, man? And we go and adopt Liam's full blood brother. Guys, I have one more experience to tell you. When my buddy Joe was making that comment, there was another lady who commented. And she posted like a little meme or GIF, right? There was a picture of the sloth from the Goonies in a baby form on a little tricycle. And she said in front of millions of people, I wouldn't have his kids either because they would look like this. She saw my interaction with Joe and other individuals and decided to. I saw how you remarked and responded to people like Joe. But I also know how I felt because in that moment when you were gaining Liam, I had just lost my boy of 2.5 years old overnight, and his name was Liam. When you were gaining a Liam, I was losing a Liam. It was a heart defect. We had no clue why. He was taken from us all of a sudden. Thank you for being kind to other people. God bless you. And that moment changed my life. You guys never know who you're showing up for. You never know what they're going through. You never know what economy or past or current situation they're coming from. You don't know what family situation they're coming from. So we show up anyway. We're kind anyway. We deliver anyway. Guys, in closing, I can leave you with a lot of gifts. I want to leave you with a gift that's transformed me. And going throughout my life, I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins. Anybody ever heard of Tony? Raise your hand if you've heard of Tony Robbins. Pretty powerful person. I've gained a lot from him. And he has a saying that's absolutely transformed my life. I've mentioned a couple of the words here on stage today. But I want to invite you guys before we close and before I turn the time over to the next individual, if you'll repeat it after me. Now, the things I'm about to say are things that I continually tell myself. Literally, even before I come up here on stage, I'm nervous. I don't know how you guys are you're gonna receive me, right? But I do know this, that every time I speak these words I'm about to share with you, it gives me power. And every single word raises the hair on my arms. And it allows me to show up a little bit more. When I'm in my dark times, I say these words to allow me to have a new beginning. So if you guys are okay, if I say it, will you guys repeat after me? Is that cool? Hey, if I say it, will you repeat after me? Is that cool?
Yes.
Good. I was about to say Bueller, or anybody in the building. Okay, guys, repeat these words after me. Now I am the voice. Now I am the voice. I will lead, not follow. I will believe, not doubt. I am a force for good. I am a leader. Defy the odds. Set a new standard. Step up. Step up. Step up. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I think our elementary kids could yell louder than that. Right? Guys, come on. I want everybody in the building to get on their feet. Let's have some fun right here. It's holiday season. Let's ring the bells a little bit. Let's disrupt this afternoon a little bit. Let's put the alarm clock a little bit. I mean, man, we got elf in the building. Come on. This is a time to party, baby. I think insurance still can protect the lights, so we may be able to shatter them. I don't know. Let's raise the roof a little bit. Let's act like we're somebody. So if you wouldn't mind and showing up just a little bit for yourself right now. And I'm going to show up for you. I'm going to raise the roof a little bit. So guys, repeat after me. Now I am the voice. Now I am the voice. I will lead, not follow. I will believe, not doubt. I am a force for good. I am a leader. Defy the odds. Set a new standard. Step up. Step up. Step up. Step up. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Guys, I'm not letting you off that easy, because we don't show up small right here. So here's what I want you to do. All of you guys here feel like you can be enlightened in somebody else's life. All you guys here who believe that you can light it up a little bit, I want you to get out your phones. I want you to get out your phones right now and push the flashlight. And I want you to raise that flashlight a little bit. I want you to set a little bit of a vibe in here. And I'm not going to let you guys get away so easy, because we don't do easy. We do hard. We don't do comfortable. We shatter comfortability. Because we show up when other people don't want it. So guys, I'm only going to let you do this one more time. So let's raise the roof just a little bit more. But I need you to show up. Right now, as a victor, not a victim. I know you guys are thinking, oh, the person next to me, they're thinking I'm kind of crazy. We like crazy. Right? The person next to you is being like, oh man, I don't know this person, so let them know. Let them know who you are. Let them know how you show up. And let them know that we always freaking show up big. Now I'm the voice! Now I'm the voice! I will lead, not follow. I will believe, not doubt. I am a force for good. I am a leader. Defy the odds. Set a new standard. Step up. Step up. Step up. Step up. Guys, as you guys take that opportunity, take that challenge to step up and be somebody, and step outside of comfortability, that's when you start living. That's when you start thriving. And that's when life gets really fun. So guys, God bless you guys. Thanks for letting me come.